Classes. Once again, we are back with our weekly current affairs. This time, we will be covering up the current affairs, the primary four current affairs that occur in the first week of August, starting from 1st of August to 7th of August. The four topics that we have filtered out as the most important for this week are: the first one is breastfeeding. The entire world is celebrating World Breastfeeding Week from 1st of August to 7th of August. Then the annual periodic labor force survey was published. Therefore, we have included the periodic labor force survey. Horizontal quota would be your third topic. The Bihar government have decided to provide horizontal quota for women in professional courses. The fourth topic of consideration is e-rupee, the digital payment system that has been inaugurated by our Prime Minister. So, moving on to the first topic, the World Breastfeeding Week of 2021. The world is celebrating the Breastfeeding Week from 1st of August to 7th of August, the first week of August every year. It is a joint initiative by UNICEF and WABA. It is a joint initiative by UNICEF and WABA. UNICEF and WABA. The theme for this year's World Breastfeeding Week is Protect Breastfeeding, a Shared Responsibility. WABA stands for World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action and it was established in 1991. Various medical experts suggest that it is essential to breastfeeding is quite essential to protect both mother and child's health and helps in healthy growth, ensuring optimal development of child. Even UNICEF suggests that starting from first hour of birth, UNICEF suggests at least exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months, and breastfeeding must continue at least up to 2 years along with various solid and non-solid foods. It is an established fact that breastfeeding helps children fight infections, allergies, acute respiratory infections in early infancy and reduce infant mortality along with obesity, cancer, diabetes, and other non-communicable diseases in their adulthood. Breast milk plays pivotal role in development of brain as well. It is also equally beneficial for the mother as it ensures faster weight loss after childbirth, reducing postpartum bleeding, protects from breast cancer, ovarian cancer, osteoporosis, and overcome postpartum depression. Despite all these proven benefits, considerable decline in breastfeeding is noticed around the world. Studies conducted by UNICEF shows that hardly 25 to 40% of children are breastfed around the world. This decline dates back to 17th century because Renaissance period saw development of feeding bottles and formula milk. It has been extensively marketed by marketing agencies in the 18th and 19th century, thereby making breastfeeding unfashionable. And in 19th century, the world witnessed a very drastic decline in breastfeeding. Later studies showed the importance of breastfeeding from various aspects, owing to which governments in the second half of 20th century started running awareness campaigns about breastfeeding. This led to creation of WABA, the World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action, that was established in 1991. In India, to regulate breast milk substitutes, India enacted the Infant Milk Substitutes Feeding Bottles and Infant Foods Act 1992. In fact, it provided for stringent regulation of these products. In fact, the National Family Health Survey 5 stated that there has been a serious decline in breastfeeding in 12 states and UTs in India. India, being a relatively poor or mid-level economy, cannot endure the disease burden that would be piled up in its health sector due to lack of breastfeeding. Coming to the laws enacted in India, India grants a maternity leave of 6 months for a mother, which is considered a relatively much higher even considering the developed nations, some of the developed nations. But India needs to enhance the paternity leave, which is given for a few days, and as per law it is just 15 days. But most of the companies or employers, they just grant only 5 to 7 days at best as paternity leave. This attitude towards the paternity leave, it must be changed, and the government must bring regulations to enhance the paternity leave, because for a child to be nourished, both mother and father needs to be present. Coming to the next topic, periodic labor force survey. The National Statistical Organization released the third annual report on periodic labor force survey conducted between July 2019 and June 2020. So what is periodic labor force survey? It is India's first computer-based survey which was launched by the National Statistical Organization in 2017. It has been constituted based on recommendation of Amitav Kundu Committee set up by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. It essentially maps the state of unemployment in the country through the various unemployment indicators. The key findings of this year's periodic labor force survey. First, before going deep into this, first of all, let's know what is workforce. Workforce is nothing but all the persons in the age group of 15 to 64 years who are willing to work and who are willing to contribute to the economy and gain economical benefits, that is their respective salaries. So those individuals, those who are willing to work and in the age group of 15 to 64 years, they are considered as workforce. Unemployment rate. How is unemployment rate calculated? Unemployment rate are those individuals in the workforce who are unemployment are taken upon the entire workforce and multiplied by 100. So the unemployment rate, as we can see from here, was 6.1% in 2017-18, but it reduced to 4.8% in 2019-20. The worker population rate, that means the number of individuals that is coming to the workforce, that this is the worker population rate, is nothing but the workforce bandwidth. The workforce bandwidth increased from to 38.2% in 2019-20 from 34.7% in 27 and 18. This means more youth joined the workforce, more youth graduated from universities, more youth are coming to adulthood and they are willing to work. So we must remember one fact, that despite the increase in workforce, despite the increase in worker population rate, the unemployment rate got reduced. This is a significant improvement on the level of statistics as well. The labor force participation rate is increased to 40.1% in 2019-20 from 36.9% in 2017-18. The gender-based unemployment rate also showed improvement in both male and female cases. Males, it was 6% in 2017-18 and it reduced to 5.1% in 2019-20. In case of females, it was 5.2% in 2017-18 and it got reduced to 4.2% in 2019-20. The horizontal quota. The context is, as I have mentioned earlier, the Bihar government announced 33% horizontal reservation for women in state engineering and medical colleges. This will encourage girls to pursue higher studies in the state and will also increase the female labor force participation rate. As we have witnessed in the previous slide, the female labor force participation rate is also a essential part of our analysis. The concept of vertical and horizontal reservation was explained by the Supreme Court in its Indra Sani judgment case. The reservations in favor of SCs, STs, and OBCs, the other backward classes, the reservations which are in favor of scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and other backward classes, and they come under the ambit of Article 16 Clause 4 may be called as vertical reservations. On the other hand, those reservations that are in favor of physically handicapped, women, transgender community, freedom fighters, ex-servicemen, and they come under the ambit of Article 16.1 as well as Article 15.3, then those reservations may be called as horizontal reservation. In fact, Article 15.3 suggests that nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any special provision for women and children. That means the state is completely free to provide any special provision for upbringing of the women as well as the children. Horizontal reservation cut across vertical reservation, and hence there is no concept of merit while making adjustment or accommodation. This scenario is known as interlocking reservations. Interlocking reservations. Then we will look at the benefits of reservation in professional courses. It encourages girls to pursue higher education and reduce overall school dropout rate for girls in primary and secondary education. Remember, during the national education policy that was brought in 2020, it remained a cause of concern still that the overall school dropout case in case of girls is relatively higher. The second benefit is it also helps in improving their socio-economic status, thereby liberating them from the clutches of patriarchal society. It could also become a stepping stone in increasing the female labor force participation rate. The female labor force participation rate was 32.2% in 2017-18, around 2015-16, and it has been decreased to 22% in the present scenario. Now the next big thing that has been declared this week was the e-rupee payment system. Remember, e-rupee, this is not any cryptocurrency or central bank digital currency. It is not a cryptocurrency, it is not a central bank digital currency, rather it is a payment system. Just like we have various other private payment systems like your UPI addresses and all that you have been scanning and using throughout the nation, throughout various stores. Similarly, e-rupee is nothing but a payment system which has been initiated by the government of India. So how will e-rupee function? Currently, we know that through DBT, government transfers benefits or funds to the beneficiaries directly to their bank accounts. But what if you don't have a bank account, or what if you are residing in the remotest part of the nation where accessing your bank account is a hectic task? What if you are not capable of owning a smartphone or a highly featured phone so that you can manage your account through your phone? So there are various concerns about revolving around this. So government has come up with the e-rupee payment system. Through this, government transfer the fund to bank. Then the bank owner will generate QR code or an SMS. The voucher is sent to the beneficiaries through a QR code or SMS. Then the beneficiary will take digital voucher to the service provider. The same QR code would be taken by the beneficiary to the service provider, just like you scan the QR code in your nearest store for payment through your various mobile wallets. It is also in similar and parallel lines. Then the voucher is scanned by the service provider. Next, the payment is transferred and the service is delivered. It also addresses another concern that through DBT, when case was transferred for a particular purpose, we don't know that how the case was utilized by the beneficiary. But through this, the benefits which would be transferred to the beneficiary would be utilized in that particular direction which is wanted by the government, or which is most equivalent to their growth can be utilized. So the various features of the e-rupee payment system, it is person and purpose specific caseless digital payment solution. Person specific, it is directly transferred to the beneficiary, and purpose specific, as I have mentioned, it cannot be utilized for other purposes other than the purpose intended for it. The caseless and contactless instrument for digital payment medium. It is a caseless as well as a contactless instrument. It is a QR code or SMS string based e-voucher which is delivered to the mobile of beneficiaries. It can be used as a voucher for medical, educational and other purposes for which the voucher has been mentioned. The voucher is a one-time redeemable voucher. You cannot use the voucher again and again. You can use one voucher at a time. It can also be used in offline mode, accessible in remote areas, because you would be having the QR code. The person who would be providing the service can scan it and you need not have internet connection for that thing. This QR code even works on basic phones. No physical interface required for transactions. So what are the benefits that are going to be implemented through the e-rupee payment system? The private sector can utilize this payment system for its employee welfare as well as CSR programs, the corporate social responsibility programs. The e-rupee will ensure leak-proof delivery of welfare services. It is also safe, ensuring payment only after transaction. This is a prepaid one, timely payment with no intermediary involved, bank account not required, as well as it will help in meeting the financial inclusion targets set up by the government of India. So that's all we have for you in this weekly current affairs for the 1st of August to 7th of August, for the first week of August. If you like our initiative, please press the like button, share with other aspirants, and please in the comment section do let us know whether or what changes you want to be made to this section. Thank you.